Okay, I'm here. Hey Twitchers, hey Twitchies, hey Twitchlings, hey Twitcheroos, hey Twitchettes, hey Twitchos, hey single viewer that apparently is all I have. Holy shit, it just jumped from 1 to 5. I don't know how that happened. Hey Chantel. And hey everybody else. As you probably figured out, hey Billy. I'm drawing Jinx tonight. Finally watched Arcane, finally finished it. I liked it, and wanted to draw Jinx. I thought it'd be fun to draw. I kind of thought that pretty much the first time she shows up as Jinx, I was like, she'd be a fun character to draw. And then I thought, this show's popular. I bet someone's going to request this pretty soon, so I'm going to beat them to it. And that's how we landed here. So yeah, I'm gonna do it. I got a few reference pose. I had an idea for a specific pose, but at an obscure angle that I thought would be difficult. So I kind of tried to find reference. Didn't find one that really quite matched what I had in mind, but found some others. And I'm just gonna take a second here to look at which one I want to go with. Hey Mark. From League of Legends originally, and now Arcane. Do any of our viewers at the moment know their League of Legends lore? Does anybody... I'm kind of curious. Was curious watching it if this is just sort of like the dramatization of the backstory that we're told in the game, or if they don't really have much of a backstory expressed in the game, and this is all kind of original as far as the fans are concerned. Kind of curious about that, because I don't really know much other than what I've now watched in the show. I got two poses off to the side here that I'm toying with. Oh, thanks for the sub, Mark. 6 months, that must be crazy. Wow. Wait, does that mean that you just subbed for 6 months in one shot, or you've been subbing for 6 months now? She's pretty Harley Quinn-esque for sure. Yeah. Backstory is quite different. Personality's not 100%, but it's definitely close. She's a very manic, kind of goofy but kind of freaky character, or at least from what I've seen. Because I don't think the show doesn't mature her to the level that I think she's at in the game, so she might level out a little bit. Okay. Have you watched Arcane yet, Mark? All right. Let's. Going back and forth here. Alright, I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna... go quick and loose for this initial pass here. Oh no, no zoom. Thank you, by the way. I know I said thank you for the sub, but thank you for the 6 months of loyalty. Also, Mark. Kind of. I would say just watch the show, to be honest, right, though. Right now, my pose is pretty close to this reference I'm doing, but I'm definitely gonna make some tweaks for the sake of slightly stronger silhouette and my more cartoony approach. Um, in digital form, yes, but not for a while yet. Not until I drop the comic that you're gonna appear in isn't going to be out for a while. Although now that you say that, because I still haven't sent anything out yet, I might give you a print of the lineup of all the cameo winners that I posted. I might include that in your package once it finally goes out. If I include anything from the actual cameo in the comic itself, though, it would just be a close-up on those panels. I don't know if I'll include that or not. But I'm not going to actually launch Volume 2 until it's like in an online form or anything like that, until it's finished, as a way of keeping up with it. And I was planning on sending you guys at least a digital version of it once it's out. Hey, Michelle. Have you watched any of Arcane yet, Michelle? Bonjour. This head needs to be. I'm actually kind of digging this pose. Just gotta make sure I get all my proportions right here before I start doing any. It's kind of Spider-Man-esque, but I had something very different in mind initially. But I was like, this is gonna either take a lot of trial and error that I don't really want to get into on the stream, or it's gonna need strong reference, and I couldn't find good reference for it, for what I initially had in mind. Yeah, very much. I enjoyed the show all around. I think the story's pretty decent. But honestly, even if the story sucked, I think I'd be into it just for the visuals of it, because it's pretty cool. The texturing approach they took with it, like if you look at a still, it almost looks like a digital painting, you know? think I can work with this. I think so. Crazy uneven eyes. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's up to you, of course. I don't know, like, you're a part of a crowd scene in the comic itself, so I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's something you'd want to get a print of. Like, it's more just the idea of being part of a comic. I think I'm just gonna adjust the camera here. But whatever you're feeling, of course. Fair enough. What about Spider-Gwen, Chantal? Oh, the pose? I don't actually know if she's got the extra studs on her ears. But I'm giving them to her anyway because it seems appropriate to me. The pose and lack of figures? What do you mean? Oh, when it was just okay, fair enough. Epsom salt bag? How do you stretch your back with that? Full disclosure, I can't quite see this one hand in my reference image, so I'm taking some design liberties. Don't hate me if any of it's wrong. Well, this is the first time since I got this pencil I've had to reload it. Which is kind of cool, but annoying it happened on stream. Hang on. Ah. You have to load this one at a time, I noticed. You can't put too many at once. The lead's not nearly as soft as the other stuff, so it takes a lot longer to burn through it. Well, that's interesting. This has been At Home Physio with Chantel. And now we shake and we push the button until shit comes out, and then we can start drawing again. There we go, there we go. Okay. Back at it, crisis averted. Everybody calm down. Well, stop it. Stop it, Michelle. Things are back in order. All's well with the world. What are you up to, Michelle, as you watch? Working on anything? Sometimes you watch from work, sometimes you watch while painting and such. Cool. Any birds in particular? Just random birds off the net? It's inspired by anything? Just felt like drawing birds? Chickadee. Oh, okay, cool, cool. I love Christmas. I low key hate that it's almost Christmas already, though. Well, what the hell? Google just tried to translate what the fuck I just said. I don't know why the hell they did. That was weird. Anyway. But yeah, I have some Christmas traditions that I quite enjoy, including some art stuff. But I just kind of got rolling on certain things. I was so busy with the Kickstarter. I'm like, okay, now let's do this. And then I'm like, oh, it's Christmas. Now I have to do that. Takes the fun out of it a little bit, you know? But I do enjoy the season. Nice. What counts as torture, Billy? Oh, the Christmas music thing. Yeah, I think so. At least they waited till after Halloween, Chantal. That always annoys me. They can't even wait for one holiday to finish before they start the next one in the stores. I said it on Discord already, so you guys may have already seen this, but I think Jinx and the combat fairies could definitely be friends. Oh yeah. I believe it, Chantal. That's the thing though, right? Is like I like Christmas a lot, but when they shove it in your face so much, like so early, that I think that's part of what I think ruins it a little bit for some people. Like, can we just do one thing at a time, please? Like. Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see how working at Walmart would make you hate human interaction. Like, 100%. I also feel like lately, like, because of the lockdown and everything, I feel like a lot of people just straight up forgot how to be around other people and how to act in public. It literally feels like that sometimes. And maybe it's just that I'm less patient because that break from crowds helped whatever tolerance I'd built up for that kind of stuff wear off a little bit. Um, but yeah, I went to Metrotown a while back and so annoyed by the end of it. Came back, messaged a friend right away. And I was just like, I fucking hate people. And he's like, I agree, but why are we saying it at this moment? Does she have? I think she's got another glove on this one too, right? She does now. Whether she typically does or not. Kind of digging this, guys. I'm kind of happy I went with this pose. Just gotta figure out her braids now. this way, maybe. And then I gotta just kind of get my basic raid shape here. It's like an old school telephone cord. Cool. Yeah, that's not at all suspicious. Alright. And let the inking begin. Fancy hairlines and such. Here's a fun fact for you guys that I learned recently. Well, actually, first a little bit of backstory. This isn't something... So the first part of this I've known for a while, and maybe some of you have as well. And anybody that's taken my comics class, I might have even told the story in the comics class. But Bob Kane, the creator of Batman, was apparently a bit of a dick. Or maybe a lot of a dick even. And he had some deal with DC where he got like full credit of the creation of Batman, right? And but in actuality, the germ of the idea of a guy dressed as a bat was his. But then another writer named Bill Finger scripted most, if not all, of those early Batman comics, and he's the one that came up with Batman's origin story, created the Batcave, created Alfred, created Joker, created Robin, yada yada yada. So basically, Batman wouldn't be Batman if it wasn't for Bill Finger. But Bob Kane was the only one that ever got like credit for like a really long time, and then you know, died rich and famous. And Bill Finger died in poverty, and only just recently kind of started getting credit, largely because of a documentary called Batman and Bill, which I still haven't seen, but I've heard nothing but good things about. and Batman vs Superman was the first movie to give Finger on-screen credit. So that's the backstory. The new fun fact that I just recently learned, which yeah, it's not going too bad that way, Billy. So the new fun fact, though, I recently learned, which I think is kind of hilarious, is in the late 70s, early 80s, when Warner Brothers first got the rights, because this is before Warner Brothers owned DC, so they first got their rights to make a Batman movie, which ultimately turned into the '89 Tim Burton movie. So they got the rights. They're first starting to get serious about possibility of making a Batman movie, and Bob Kane wrote to the studio with his notes that he thought the studio would be happy to get from him as the original creator of Batman, and wrote like a treatment of what he thought the story should be. And I recently watched a YouTube video where, because apparently this treatment has since been published in some Batman like retrospective book or whatever. So on this YouTube video, they broke down, like the guy like read through the treatment and they just broke it down, like, and horrible, like the worst fucking thing. Starts it off with claims that this is just supposed to be something to give your writers inspiration, not trying to write the actual story or whatever, and gives some notes saying that he thinks that they should deviate from the 66 show's tone because that was a product of its time and doesn't really match with modern sensibilities, and saying it should be dark and taken seriously and yada yada yada. But then like his treatment reads like the worst episode of the 60s series ever, with like really like cheesy dialogue. Like the Joker tries to kill Batman with some gas, but Batman's got like some like nose plugs that like help protect him from it. And then the dialogue is like, haha, Joker, you should have known that I would have foreseen this activity and thus created this device. And like, so bad. And just kind of shows what a shit writer he likely actually was. And kind of highlights why he needed Bill Finger to actually do the heavy lifting with the creation of the character and Gotham City and all that stuff. And there's also funny stuff too, like he's describing how he thinks they should cast Catwoman and how she should be a 10 plus is how he described it, which just sounds funny, especially when you know the kind of guy he probably was. But yeah, it was a fun video. I found this channel on the weekend called I think it's called Superhero Stuff You Should Know. And they had this whole series where they did a breakdown of all of the past drafts of the different iterations of Batman in movies, and it was a pretty fun listen to as I was working away on the weekend, because a lot of those scripts are out there. The one that sounds the coolest actually that never got made was Darren Aronofsky's script for Batman Year One, which ended up getting scrapped in favor of Batman Begins. And I love Batman Begins, and I'm glad we have that movie, but the Aronofsky script sounds pretty cool, and I really want him to do an action movie now, having heard that breakdown. Co-wrote it with Frank Miller. But it was very like bare bones, very street level, very grounded, very limited gadgets, ends in such a way that you could get to the gadgets in the next movie, but like it sounded badass, like just like a balls out action movie. Which is the dope comment to Michelle? Is that to the Darren Aronofsky version? It takes inspiration. Well, the animated one was based on the Frank Miller comic, and that's very close to the comic. So this was inspired by that comic and co-written with Frank Miller, who wrote that comic. So there's a lot of parallels, but it's not a note-for-note recreation of it by any stretch. But yeah, it sounds super cool. So like, basically the breakdown of it, from what I remember of it, I don't have the script in front of me with all notes like they did in the video, of course, but they were saying how, so like, basically after the Waynes are killed, Bruce runs away from home, which he does in the original comics and in Batman Begins, but he does it when he's a bit older, right? Like after college or whatever. So in this version, he does it at a way younger age. and and there's no Alfred as we know him, no traditional Alfred, but he ends up getting raised on the streets by a guy named Big Al, which is like kind of a version of Alfred, and that's probably the weirdest deviation, in my opinion, anyway, from the classic story. But then yeah, lives on the streets. Selena Kyle is in it. She's the only one from the original Rogues Gallery that's in it, but she's not really a villain. And she lives in a brothel across the street from where Bruce and Big Al live. And so there's like the whole thing and everything. Eventually, decides to through a whole. It kind of had very much like a Death Wish vibe to it, and then when he starts beating on criminals, basically, he and also, by the way, Jim Gordon is like arguably the bigger character than Batman Bruce Wayne in this movie. But yeah, so he has a ring from his dad that has the initials TW on it. And he's kind of basically just like, he wants nothing to do with his past because it's just a reminder of his parents' death and all that stuff. So he avoids it. And then some shit happens and he kind of does his like oath kind of thing, right? And when he first goes out to like beat up criminals, he's wearing his dad's ring. And when he punches people, the TW on it leaves an impression in the skin that looks kind of like a bat. And then so they start talking about he starts being referred to as the Bat around the street, and that's where that whole thing comes from. And then he so then they did, Mark, but not the Aronofsky script. It was just the comic that was adapted into the animated one. And then he eventually like makes this like homemade bat suit. Like he gets like a hockey helmet and he does a bunch of shit to it. And he puts the ears on it and all that stuff, and apparently this version he actually is wearing hockey pads, which he didn't say, which he very clearly was not wearing in The Dark Knight. And yeah, no, it sounded really cool. It made me curious to actually read the actual script. But if you want to hear this channel's breakdown, the channel I'm pretty sure is called Superhero Stuff You Should Know. So if you search that, search either Batman Year 1 or Aronofsky's Batman or something like that should show up. But it's also like Aronofsky, like he's done dark shit. He hasn't done any kind of action movie yet, and so he is as grounded as this one was. It sounded like it was just loaded with like hardcore action scenes and stuff. And I was kind of like, I want to see him do an action movie now. I realized that during the last stream, Billy, and I meant to change it after, and I totally forgot. So thanks for pointing that out. I do need to fix that. Try to remember that after tonight's stream. I also need to switch the link, the Combat Fairies link, back to Comixology now that Kickstarter's not a thing. By the way, speaking of which, update on that. The book printing has been a little bit slower than I would like. Apparently, the interior pages of the book completely printed. But there were some issues with the dimension of the cover that I had to address, and fixing that has been kind of slow going because I keep getting the notes like, oh, can you adjust this for this purpose, and then I'll do it, but then you're not able to look at it till the next day, and then if there's another issue, it's just like, so it just keeps getting pushed back at the end of the day. He told me earlier in the week that might have it ready by the end of this week, but I don't know if that's changed now because of these tweaks I've had to make. So I'm not really sure where we're at with the ETA, but I'm assuming next week at the latest they'll all be done. But maybe as early as this week. Hey JC. And yes, Chantel, just like Reed. How are we doing tonight, JC? Oops. Hey, Max. Well, stop killing yourself, JC. And how are you doing, Max? Have you watched Arcane yet? If Arcane is of any interest to you, that is. You know what? Let's do the glove as a spot black. Thank you, Spectral Void. I didn't know that. Billy, please explain. Does that mean that it's still owned by Edward Rice Burroughs' estate, and they just bought the license for the initial movie, and now it's lapsed? I finished Arcane on Sunday night, I think. Oh, by the way, last night I started Hawkeye finally, and I say finally, not even a week yet. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I don't think it's gonna be like some giant game changer. I feel like Marvel's done so many big things now that sometimes people expect everything to be epic, and I don't think that's gonna be what this is, and I wonder if that's gonna annoy people. But I think it's gonna be fun. It's fun so far. Yeah, I'm liking it. I concur. I think John Carter definitely had more going for it than it got credit for. I agree, Chantel. Oops. Okay. Holy shit! No kidding, Michelle. I was actually talking about that earlier today, um, in a class, and was thinking about you in particular while talking about it as well, because we've talked about it on the stream about how sometimes people will shit on special effects and they'll call the artist lazy or whatever, which they shouldn't be doing, of course, and because they don't know what's going into it. And I was saying how another friend, Lori, who she was working in the render farm at, I want to say it's Double Negative, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was in their studio. And they were working on Black Panther, and they were saying how they were rendering shots for Black Panther less than a week before it came out. That is surprising, actually, Billy. I guess it is and it isn't. Tarzan, I guess, has been around long enough that it could be public domain, but I guess if the family keeps renewing the copyright, then maybe you can kind of hold on to that for. Although what doesn't quite make sense with that is I remember hearing that apparently at some point in the not that distant future, Batman's going to become public domain, and like DC will still own most of the rights to anything that came out, any iterations of Batman that came out past a certain date or whatever. But it's like the original likeness, like you can technically do a, if you did a really faithful adaptation of his first appearance, you could legally get away with it or something. And if DC can't stop that from happening, how is the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate um, dealing with that? Yeah, totally. Well, that was kind of how the conversation started. Was how talking about like modern CG compared to older CG is part of it, as well as that there's such a reliance on it that I feel like a lot more pressure is put on. There's a much bigger load put on the CG artists, and not necessarily more time or money to go with it. I don't always do the under eyelashes on characters because that tends to look kind of weird. But I thought with Jinx, if it looks weird, that's okay. Yeah, but there's gonna be so many. Like the thing is though, with it though, JC is like, I think the only version of Batman that becomes public domain is literally that first appearance. So if you attempt to do anything with Batman, um, DC's lawyers will be all over it to find anything that resembles anything that came beyond that. Like I feel like a lot of people won't want to touch it out of fear of that because I think like they'll they'll look for any excuse to prevent other people from doing it. I'm sure. So yeah, I could see that. I'm not surprised to hear that at all. Unfortunately, Michelle. Maybe that sounds almost familiar, but again, I think it might only be that classic pure black, pure white, perfect circle head version of him. Maybe. Oh yeah. Well, like fucking Sonic. um, I know someone that was working on Sonic when that happened as well. Probably one of the most mainstreamly famous versions of that. Yeah. I have a friend that still seems pretty convinced because this whole like rumor started like, oh, they did that on purpose. They purposely did a bad version first for publicity. I'm like, no, they didn't. No, they fucking didn't. Why the hell would they do that? Yeah, me neither. And it's also the whole reason these projects get greenlit is because they figure the name recognition is going to sell it, right? But it's like if you change the original, if you change it so much from the source material, then why is that going to impress anybody that recognizes that name? I like Jinx's boots. That is some solid footwear, in my opinion. Ink. Ink. It's actually not quite what I meant to do with that line, but you know what? I'm going to embrace it. We're going to pretend like it was on purpose. Spot black. When in doubt, black it out. Liking the playlist tonight. I think it works. This is punk alternative playlist. JC. By the way, did anybody attempt to watch that Garfield video that I posted on Discord? Billy, I think, has already seen it because we saw it for the first time together. This was like a week or two ago. This was during one of Parker's streams, I think. We started talking about we started talking about Garfield for some reason, and I posted this like epic video about Garfield, which me and Billy watched at a party once at Logan's place. And you know it's a wild party when you start watching Garfield videos. That wasn't a slight on the party, it was a good time. It was just as I described it, I was like, that sounds funny. Wow. Be surprised. Be surprised. You thought of me as introverted, even though my job is literally talking to a crowd of people for 6 hours a day. Where does that come from, JC? I do appreciate my my me time, mainly because I do so much working shit. But I go out, I do shit. It happens. I have that vibe about being an introvert. But I never shut up when I'm in class with you guys. Introversion is definitely in my past. I used to be much more introverted. And I will have my moments of introversion still, but I think I'm fairly outgoing at this point. But I'm a workaholic for sure, so that definitely fights it a little bit. But when I start a term, they are all random strangers, though, JC. I actually read a thing one time. I forget what the term was. Maybe it's omnivert or something like that. That actually I think better describes me. It's sort of a mix of the two, to be honest. Where I am very extroverted, but it'll also take it out of me. But then in the right environment, I'll be extroverted without it taking anything out of me. And I can't remember all but I remember like I stumbled on it on my Facebook feed one time, and I was like, oh, this is totally me. Maybe? That's probably it then, yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of both. It's like you can be very extroverted, but you can be very introverted as well. And as far as random people, I do have my moments where I can feel very like shy and withdrawn, but then I have other moments where I'm very outgoing and not giving a shit. So depends on the energy in the room and how I'm feeling that day and in that moment, I think. About us, Max, or about terminology? Okay. Turns out that's the real reason she's on the stream at all. To weaponize our personalities. And now the fear has set in. Oops. I'm digging the Taskmaster reference, JC. Well played. Oh, really? Well, that's cool, Max. Is that going to be in the new year that you start, or are you going to start even before that? I feel like it'd be weird to start this late in the term before Christmas break. Okay. Sounds like you got some explaining to do to Mark there, Max. That is Mark Max, yes. Fun fact, might surprise JC, is FD69 actually came after FD68. Not a lot of people know that, but you know that now. Okay, Jace, give me shit for the bad joke, but so funny I forgot to laugh. Like it's 1992. That's such an old comeback. My god, man. That's like, that predates me. No, no. I'm quite sure it's older than me. In fact, I think that might be a Pee Wee Herman line, which I can guarantee is at least a few years older than me. Actually, that whole interaction, JC, has reminded me of, have you ever seen Step Brothers? Where, like, when Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly meet for the first time, Ferrell makes some lame joke. And John C. Reilly's like, ha ha, first time I heard that song, I laughed so hard, or that joke, I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur. And then Will Ferrell just straight up starts crying in response to that. What Step Brothers did you think I was talking about? Pee Wee Herman's a whole thing. It started as a Broadway show that was parodying kid shows, which then became a movie, which was Tim Burton's first ever directorial debut. Which then became an actual kid show, which then became another movie, which was on the verge of expanding even more until the actor that played Pee Wee um, basically got caught with his junk out at a porno theater, and his whole career fell apart after that. Stop it, JC. See what you did there, Billy? Like, your mind didn't go there already yourself, JC. That I'd be oblivious to it? What makes you say that, Max? Cause you, cause you pissed off Mark. I think I deserve a bit more credit than that, JC. In fairness, I never even had a chance to think about it because Billy gave it away immediately. But so we'll never know if I would have got it right away or not. I think you just have this very like grade school idea of teachers in general, JC. That they're all like by the book robots and not like humans. I mean, I say fuck in like every sentence, and that you're like an innocent soul. Right, Billy? I don't know how accurate of a representation of me that character is going to be, JC, because I feel like your impression of me isn't necessarily the most accurate. Fish and chips and bangers and mash. Bangers and mash was a staple in my house growing up. My dad being from Ireland. Although I think I actually like bangers and mash a lot more than my dad does. I mean, that part's accurate. See, this is what I'm talking about, JC. Didn't even know that I'm Irish. Yes, my dad. I mean, he moved to Canada when he was 11, I think. So doesn't have like a discernible accent or anything like that. But yes, I am. I am technically at least part Irish. Although Moore, I think, is actually an English name. My dad's dad was English, which is where the Moore name came from. I will give you the stone teacher that's not stoned. JC, I don't know how accurate the other layers you're trying to unpeel from the onion are, but I can't argue with that one. Yes, I guess I am white. But I feel like you could tell that to look at me. I remember actually a guy in high school saying that to me. But that guy was like white as a freaking ghost. He was the type of guy that was like, he liked to brag about the fact that he was like 1/17th Native American or something. And then we're talking about lineage, and I said, yeah, my dad's born in Ireland. And his dad was English, and he's like, oh, so you're just white. And I'm like, dude, look at yourself. Huh. Rolf kind of sounds Norwegian to me. Exactly, JC. I very much agree. Because they probably haven't experienced anything of cultural relevance to the culture they're trying to claim some ownership to. Sure as shit didn't have to face any of the prejudice that culture had to deal with. But they just feel so proud of it for some reason. My name, by the way, Dylan, is the Welsh term for ocean, I think. Not why I was named that. Honestly, my parents just heard the name in a movie and liked the sound of it, but that's apparently what it means. I don't know if Moor means anything. Right? I feel like I heard that a lot growing up from different people. Okay, funny story similarly. I have a friend that I grew up with named Daizo. He's Japanese. And when we were in high school, he went to some meeting that they had. I don't remember what the meeting was called, or whatever, but it was about getting minority benefits, I think, for school. And and he told me, he was like, "Oh, Dylan, you should come to this with me because you might be able to get benefits because you're half Irish." And I'm like, Daizo, I don't think you know what minority means. Might have been a funny joke if he was joking, but I know for a fact he was not. Because of the ocean thing? Yeah, no kidding. This tune has played on the stream before, and every time it makes me think of a song from the 90s that I can never put my finger on, and I can never remember enough of the lyrics for anybody to figure out what the hell I'm talking about. It's like, you gotta know some da da da. Anybody? Anybody? Well, I mean, as far as getting benefits, it might depend on what it is you're applying for, and things might have changed. Did they tell you why they were telling you not to say you were Latina? Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because I think if you have Scottish heritage that you're really proud of and your family kind of adheres to a lot of Scottish traditions, they eat haggis, they wear kilts on special occasions, they throw logs, that kind of shit. Like, then that's fine and that's cool, but I feel like it's still more like it's your heritage, it's not it's not necessarily Scottish, you're just of proud Scottish lineage. Okay, and thank you, You probably okay. I know I've attempted to get people to know what the hell I'm talking about at least twice before. This must be the first time I've said it while you're on the stream. I liked it, Centane. See, I don't know, like what were you applying for, Max? Because it honestly, that sounds racist as shit. Doesn't necessarily mean it's true or untrue, rather, unfortunately, but. Gotta do the sound effects. Bob Ross taught us that. Well, I mean, okay, if that person that warned you, told you that to do that, knew the people that ran that business or whatever, then and they knew them to be racist, then maybe that's true. But that would be unique to that person. It wouldn't be like the standard. But there are like I think certain programs and stuff for. But it might the requirements might require more than just being of a minority, though. I'm not really sure. I've never had to try. I would eat both of those things, JC. Thank you, Centane. Also, hi, if I didn't say that. And how did that Chinese food treat you, Chantel? And what makes you say that? I mean, like, I feel like any Chinese food restaurant in Canada is going to be Canadianized to a point, unless you mean like the Wok Box or some kind of fast food version of it, where it's maybe changed up even more. Part of the motivation to find a pose like this for Jinx, by the way, is I feel like I so often do characters just standing, or even if it's a more dynamic pose than that, they're still more or less upright, and there's so much unused space sometimes. And I was like, I want to put something in a crouched position, max out the frame a little bit more. Did they have cheesecake or pizza, JC? They used to have pizza. Their pizza was a lot better than you'd expect, actually. Oh, so this is like homemade Chinese food, you mean, Chantel? Thanks, Billy. Assuming you were referring to this. If not, then as you were. Have you started Arcane yet, by the way, Billy? I meant to ask you earlier. Or maybe even finished it, for that matter. Gotcha. I will do the tattoo, Max, but glad you said it because I did forget. But yeah, I had every intention of doing that. I'll add that when I finish inking the base of it. Fair enough. Did you make an exception for Hawkeye? Because you commented you were pretty excited for that last week. Well, not all Chinese food is vegetarian stuff, Chantal. In fact, I would say most of it, or at least here anyway, isn't. Why is that, Billy? Sorry to hear that, Billy. Brought on by something, or just one of those things that kicks in sometimes? And if you'd rather not get into it, feel free not to. Okay. So not that you're considering that a authentic Chinese food must, Chantel, just that what you would have preferred given the choice. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, anything that you're doing that you enjoy is definitely a good sign. Um, if you do bring yourself to watch a show, though, um, uh, Hawkeye is pretty fun so far. It might actually be a good pick me up as well. But if games are doing the trick more, then obviously stick to the games. You know yourself better than I do. It is a nice feature of living in a city. That's actually the worst. Like, okay, getting a song stuck in your head can be kind of annoying anyway. But it's especially annoying when you only actually know like one verse. So it's not just that the song is stuck in your head; it's that one part that just won't end. Oops. Bump the camera, but I think we're still good. Forgot to draw this in earlier as well. She's got like, they're not really fishnets, but they got like a kind of fishnet-esque crosshatch kind of pattern on this, on the one leg. cool. Good night, Mark. Oh, sorry. Good night, Michelle, actually. Wow, I looked away for a minute and I missed so much. Have a good one, Michelle. Host the colors. Which one? Or hoist the colors, I guess. Is that the name of the? Is that the official name of the main track, or is that a different one? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a bit of a tough one. I don't want to imagine that, actually. If at all possible. What's that, JC? Oh, probably your writing class, right? Yikes. Gotcha. Oops. No promises, JC. Not saying I won't. Not saying I will. You've built them up so much though, JC, that I feel like I'm just gonna be horribly disappointed in them. Kelsey's gonna introduce them, and I'm just gonna look them all up and down. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? I expected more. Hype can be a dangerous thing, JC. Oh no, wait. Fucked something up. My God, I fucked it up. Maybe no one will notice. Maybe everyone will notice. Hang on. Mild adjustments. Kind of works. We'll see. We'll see. Gotcha, gotcha. Exquisite, you say? You know, maybe one of you guys will actually know this, and can let me know. But so, Chantel was asking how Harley Quinn-esque Jinx is, and I haven't read a Harley comic or like a Joker comic or anything recently, but I've seen like art from it, and I feel like there's a new, I don't know, I feel like it's maybe Joker's new girlfriend or something, and she's very Harley-esque, but she's not Harley, and her color scheme looks a lot like Jinx actually. Anybody know who the hell that is? Makes sense, JC. Kind of saw that coming, to be honest. And yes, Chantel, thank God for white pants. I watched the new Resident Evil movie last night, by the way. Yeah, alright, not great, but alright. A lot more faithful to the games. But like, so much plot crammed in it that you never really get to have any fun with the action scenes or anything. Feels more like it's about getting through the scenes to get our characters from point A to point B than it is about actually like what happens in those scenes, you know? I don't know if that's the best way to describe it or not, but hopefully you know what I mean. Braid number 1 done. Okay. Okay. And am I right? Is she like... Oh, I just noticed JC mentioned it too. Well, just from the imagery, I haven't read it, but she's got like, she seems kind of loony, and she's got the whole like clown aesthetic, right? So it just seems like another Joker girlfriend Harley replacement kind of thing. But okay. Have any of you guys read anything featuring her, or you just know of her? Oh, totally. Okay. I have a cool idea for a another Harley Quinn fan art I'd like to do sometime. I actually got the idea based on someone's cosplay at Fan Expo a couple years ago, but it would imply she's still with Joker, and I feel like I think I brought this up before actually. I think, but there's so many people who know nothing about the comics have kind of weirdly romanticized their relationship, even though it's a horrible, abusive relationship. And so doing anything with Harley that seems pro Joker almost seems like feels wrong to me. But the image would have to do that, or it would be a different image. Fair enough. I bet Harley will beat her in another fight eventually, though, Billy. I have a hunch. Do you remember in the Superman cartoon when Harley fought Lex Luthor's bodyguard, Mercy? It was a pretty fun fight, most of which happens off screen, but it was pretty fun scene where like Joker and Lex are having this like serious business conversation, and in the background you just hear the sounds of Harley and Mercy beating the shit out of each other, and every once in a while they'll like run across the foreground or something, and then by the time the scene's done you see them and they're just like both beaten to hell, and they kind of just go about their business. Yeah, they're very, they're wrong on so many levels. One, they're not unique and different because a lot of people think that, and also they're stupid. Idolizing something they clearly know nothing about. But the image I had would be Harley in her classic outfit, but wearing one of the purple leather Joker jackets from the '89 movie. And I just thought it'd be kind of a fun image, especially because like the classic outfit is so tight, but I could make the jacket really oversized, and that contrast would be kind of fun to play with. Fair enough. Oh, actually, I already read that earlier. Never mind. You might even be back already. That was in response to the hangry comment, which I think I even commented on myself earlier, but... Just realized I never... Um... I mean, I like the character designs and stuff, but Arcane is the first time I really got into it at all. I did one other League stream a while ago. I did Gwen, but that was a request, and Gwen seemed like a pretty cool character, but I didn't know anything about her prior to that request. How about you, Max? The fact that it's so often referred to as LOL does also get confusing, because for a second there I thought Billy was just laughing mid-sentence to himself. What didn't you like about it? I'm curious. It's like a battle royale game, isn't it? Like Overwatch and Apex and stuff? Or am I completely wrong about that? That's actually the other thing too. I've played, or I've watched before Arcane. I have played. Sorry, I watched some of the character trailers and things like that. Gotcha. I remember actually when I was fairly new at VFS, a student um, put on one of the league shorts for me. But I don't remember what one it was in particular. But I was very taken by the visuals of it. Very impressed. That was Ava that showed me that. Alright, let's put her tattoo in there, and then we'll do our spot blacks, and we'll call this one done. Go away, spam bot. Mark, if you're still there, how far into Arcane are you? You said you just started it. Alright. Okay. So you haven't even seen this character in her final form yet. Or actually, I guess technically nobody has. It doesn't really give you her final form, I suppose. But it gets us pretty close. Spot blacks. Capone pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of your boys to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. I don't know why I felt like a spontaneous Connery, but I did, so I did, and that's what happened. Just spoiled that character becomes Jinx or something larger. Even without knowing anything about League, I did kind of put two and two together on that one pretty quick. Although I probably wouldn't have remembered her name if it hadn't come up on the stream soon before that. But the guy does the line like, "Oh, you're such a Jinx." I'm like, "Oh, I get it." See what they're doing. Huh. Yeah, I can see how that might change your perception of it. JC, do you know Max, or do you only know like in person, or only from here? Because I don't think your classes overlapped, did they? Okay, got there. The correct term, Max, is unalive you. Glad to hear, JC. Whoop, shit. It's a good group that we attract here, I think. Oh, better do this. This to spot. That'll be good. Okay, I really hope the music didn't just pause because I really don't want to start a new playlist for the last 3 minutes of the stream because I'm very close to finish. Oops. Keep bumping that camera. Thanks, Max. I could tell, JC. And you're probably so excited to bring it up. First opportunity. Although, I know bread pudding. I don't actually know if I know bread soup. So clearly the music did pause, and I hope you guys have been entertaining yourselves with the songs that were already stuck in your heads as I wrap this up. There we go. Jinx! Do a quick scan in case I missed a spot black. I don't think I did though. Think I got it. Whoa, what did I miss? Ew. Wow. Well played, Merrick. Okay, let's throw a signature on here and call it officially finished. Thanks, Max. There we go. All right, I'll be back at my normal time on Thursday for another original, and the regular stuff again next week as well. I'm gonna do something off the request list next Tuesday. Um, Thanks, Billy. Thanks, JC. Thanks, Mark. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching as usual, and I'll see you next time.